For this homework, we're going to be dealing with parallelograms and trapezoids. Now, what a parallelogram is that the opposite sides are parallel. So if I'm looking at question number 1, the segment VU is parallel to the segment WX, right? That's one thing. Another thing that I know is that the segment VW with the segment US are parallel. When it comes to sides, opposite sides are not only parallel, they're congruent, which means same shape, same size, right? Same shape, we can see their segments. Same size, that means that the length are equal to each other. So the way I'm going to solve for x, I'm just going to say 10 equals -1 plus 11x, right? Opposite sides have the same length. Now the rest just looks like an algebra question. Let me separate my sides through the equal sign. To get the x term by itself, let me get rid of the -1. This -1, let me move it to the left as a +1, right? I'm going to do opposite sign. So now I have that 11 is equal to 11x. Now to solve for x, let me divide by both sides by the number in front of it. 11 divided by 11 is 1. So x is equal to 1. When it comes to my homework, you don't have to type in x equals, just type in 1, just the number. So when it comes to sides, it's this simple. Now, when we're talking about angles, there's interesting part of angles is that, let me do an example here real quick. If I have an angle that is 80, opposite angle, so the angle that is farthest away from that corner is going to be the same thing. My opposite angle is equal. So opposite angles in a parallelogram are equal to each other. Now, adjacent angles are not those that are opposite. Those are that are connected by a side. Those are next to each other. Adjacent angles add up to 180. So I'm just going to say that this angle at the bottom is 100. The reason why, because these two adjacent angles, two angles that are connected by a side, add up to 180. Obviously, this other angle here, it is 100. So on a parallelogram, opposite angles are equal to each other, but adjacent angles add up to 180. So looking at question number 2, the way I'm going to solve for x, I see those two angles are adjacent. So I have that 11x plus 7 plus 96 must equal to 180. Let me separate them through the equal sign. Let me condense the left side. When it comes to letters, I just have 11x. When it comes to numbers, 7 plus 96, that's 103. And this is equal to 180. Now, to get the x by itself, the term that has the x, the 103, let me move it over as a minus 103. So 11x equals 77. Right, 180 minus 103, 77. To solve for x, let me divide by the number in front of x. 77 divided by 11 is 7. So x is equal to 7. Adjacent angles add up to 180. Now, opposite angles, like question number 3, opposite angles are equal to each other. So I'm just going to say 38x plus 1 equals 115. Right, let me separate my sides through the equal sign. My plus 1, let me move it over as a minus 1. So I have that 38x equals 114. Let me divide by 38 to get the x by itself. 114 divided by 38 is 3. So x is equal to 3. Let me zoom out a little. Question number 2. The angles were adjacent, so they add up to 180. Question number 3. The angles are opposite, so they equal each other. Now looking at question number 4. Angles A and B, they are adjacent. They are equal to, they're going to add up to 180. So I'm just going to say 6x plus 8 plus 7x plus 16 is equal to 180. Adjacent angles, right? Angles that are connected by a side, adjacent angles, they add up to 180. All right, so I'm going to treat this as a simple algebra question. I'm going to separate them through the equal sign. Let me condense the left side, right? Let me make things smaller. So 6x plus 7x. I'm going to combine like terms. 6 plus 7, that's 13. So that gives me 13x. Then I also see 8 plus 16. That's 24. So 13x plus 24 equals 180. All right, let me get the x term by itself. So the 24, let me move it over as a minus 24. So that gives me that 13x equals 156. Now let me divide both sides by 13. X equals 12. So when it comes to angles on a parallelogram, opposite angles are equal to each other. Adjacent angles add up to 180. When it comes to sides, don't forget question number 1, opposite sides are equal to each other. All right, let's practice a little more on the angles. Let's take a look at something like this. Find the measurement indicated in each parallelogram. Remember how earlier I had an example where if this angle was 80, this angle was 100. Remember they added to 180. The 100, just because I cut a diagonal, I throw in a diagonal, that segment in there, just because the 100 degrees, I cut it into two pieces, doesn't mean I change the measurement of the whole angle. So when I look at question number 5, this entire corner with here at angle M, if I add those two angles, so if I go 21x plus 5 plus 38 plus 6x plus 2, this is going to equal to 180. Once again, on my example from the beginning, right, one angle was 80, the other angle was 100. Just because I draw a diagonal doesn't mean the whole corner changes. I just cut my 100 into two pieces. All right, now looking at this, let me separate my sides through the equal sign. Let me make my left side a little bit smaller. Let me condense things over. 21 plus 6. I'm going to combine like terms. 21 plus 6 is 27. So that gives me 27x. 5 plus 38 plus 2, that's 45. So plus 45 equals 180. To get the x term by itself, the plus 45, let me move it over. So I have the 27x equals 135. Right, 180 minus 45 gave me 135. Let me divide by 27. 135 divided by 27, that's just 5. X equals 5. Now be careful in the instructions. If the instructions are solve for x, x equals 5, you're done. However, here it says find the measurement of angle MLK. Right, if I look at the points MLK, I'm talking about this corner. Now, I know the value of x. Remember, x equals 5. So that corner technically is 38 plus 6 times 5 plus 2. Remember, x equals 5, so I'm using the value of x. I know the order of operation says before you add, make sure you do your multiplication. So do the multiplication before you add. So I'm going to look at this as 38 plus 30 plus 2. Now 38 plus 30 plus 2, that's 70. So my whole corner is 70 degrees. All right, let's take a look at another example. Let's take a look at question number 6. This angle F with the entire angle G, I'm just going to add everything. 3x plus 17 plus 62 plus 6x plus 2, it is going to equal to 180. All right, let me solve for x. I'm going to condense the left side. 3x plus 6x, that's 9x. 17 plus 62 plus 2, that's 81. And this is equal to 180. So I have the 9x plus 81 equals 180. All right, the 81, let me move it over as a minus 81. So I have the 9x equals 180 minus 81, that's 99. Let me divide by 9, x equals 11. Now let's pay attention to the instructions. Find the measurement of angle FEH. FEH is this corner. I'm going to use the value of x. If I had some measurement, something related to x, I would just plug it in and find out what it gives me. However, for me to solve for this corner, FEH, let me solve for this angle as well. I'm going to use 3x plus 17. I'm looking at 3 times 11 plus 17. I know 3 times 11 is 33 plus 17, that's 50. Let me zoom out a little. So if I pay attention to the picture I'm looking at, I know this angle right here is 50. I'm asking for this angle at the bottom. Notice how I took the diagonal out. I'm asking for that angle. I want you guys to think about it. I know that angle is 50. I'm going to say this angle right here, it is 130. I want you guys to think about it. Where did the 130 come from? Remember that the two adjacent angles have to add up to 180? That's how I know this is 130. Nice. All right, now let's talk about the diagonals. The interesting part of the diagonals on a parallelogram is that each diagonal cuts each other in half. The diagonals are those two segments on the inside. Now, those diagonals cut each other in half. So notice how part information is said that LD is x minus 3. LD, if you notice, is this segment, right, from L to D. Then I say DJ equals 2x minus 14. Look at DJ, that's that segment, right, from D to J. The whole diagonal is LJ, right, from L to J. But I know that that diagonal gets cut in half, because remember I said the two diagonals cut each other in half. So I know that x minus 3 equals 2x minus 14. LD is equal to DJ. Because the whole diagonal was cut in half, the rest is just simple algebra work. We separate them through the equal sign. The 1x, let me move it to the right side. The minus 14, let me move it to the left side. Don't forget to switch signs. Negative 3 plus 14, that's 11. 2x minus 1x, that is 1x. X equals 11. Right? The instructions are solve for x. X equals 11. Let's take a look at question number 8. VF equals 6. So from V to F. Fx, so from F to X equals x minus 3. Remember, the whole diagonal was cut in half. So I'm just going to say 6 equals x minus 3. The blue part, VF, is equal to Fx. 6 is equal to x minus 3. The minus 3, let me move it to the left side as a plus 3. 9 is equal to x, so that means x equals 9. For the homework, just type in the number. You don't have to type in x equals. Now I'm going to say this will be way, way too simple. Right? If I give you the two small parts, you're just going to let them equal each other and you're going to work them out. Let's change things a little. Let me make it a little more complicated. Now let's take a look at SU. From S all the way to U. If you notice, that's the whole segment now. That's the whole diagonal. Remember how I said the whole diagonal gets cut in half? So the whole diagonal is SU. So the whole thing is 48. I'm just going to cut into 24 and 24. All right, the whole segment is 48. Now, when I take a look at the segment MU, I know MU is 4x plus 4. MU is just from M to U, is just this part. The way I'm going to solve for X in this case, I'm going to say 24 equals 4X plus 4. The reason why I didn't go 48 equals 4X plus 4, because 48 was the whole diagonal. MU is just half of the whole diagonal. So 24 equals 4X plus 4. Now, let me move this 4 over. So I have that 20 is equal to 4X. Let me divide by 4. X is equal to 5. Let's take a look at another example. Here, DW is 16. So from D to W is 16. This is 16. Now, I want to know how big is UW. I know UW equals 2X plus 12. But look at UW is the whole thing. Notice how the blue segment is the whole thing, UW. The red segment is just the half of it. At the moment, we can agree that DU is also 16th. Because remember how the whole segment was cut in half. Now, I know 16 and 16, the whole thing is 32, right? The whole segment is 32. Because 16 and 16 is 32. So I'm just going to say 32 equals 2X plus 12. Right. If half of the segment is 16, shouldn't the whole segment be 32? So 32 equals 2X plus 12. Solve for X. Let me subtract 12. So I have that 20 is equal to 2X. Let me divide by 2. X is equal to 10. Now let's take a look at trapezoids. We're gonna be working with a few questions on trapezoids as well. Now, a trapezoid, what it happens is that the top and bottom sides are parallel, just not the same length. They're parallel. Now, the angles on one side of the trapezoid, they must add up to 180. So if one of my angles is 100, the other angle is 80. Now, on the other side, if my trapezoid, the other two angles must also add up to 180. The interesting part, though, is if one side is equal to the other side, so that's what we call isosceles trapezoid, the angles on the left are exact the same angles on the other side. I'm going to say this angle is 100 and this angle is 80. Remember parallelograms, I said opposite angles are equal. Look on trapezoids, that rule doesn't work. So be careful with trapezoids and parallelograms. Now let's take a look at question number 11. Find the measurement of the angle indicated for each trapezoid. I know these two angles, they must add up to 180. One of them is 110. I'm asking how big is the other one. I'm just going to say, well, this angle must be 70. Reason why is those two angles add up to 180. Now let's take a look at question number 12. These two angles on the side must add up to 180. So this other angle here is 95, right? Because those two must add up to 180. Now the angle that I'm asking for, look at the corner F. Remember how I said the angles on one side repeat on the other side? This angle here must be 85. So be careful which angle I'm asking for. Now the diagonals are not that interesting when it comes to trapezoids. The diagonals, one of the diagonals is the segment SU. The other diagonal is the segment TV. With parallelograms, they cut each other in half. On trapezoids, they don't. They don't cut each other in half. The only interesting part is when the diagonals, or the trapezoids are isosceles. That means that two sides of the side are equal. The only interesting part of this is that one diagonal is equal to the other diagonal. So if you notice, I said TV is equal to 13. That's the blue diagonal. I'm asking how big is SU, the other diagonal. But I just said they are equal to each other. So one of them's 13. The other one is 13. Let's take a look at question number 14. MK, I know MK equals 7. That's this diagonal. I want you to tell me how big is NL. That's this other diagonal. But remember I said that they're both equal to each other. So 7. Now to make sure you're paying attention, on trapezoids, some of your numbers will be decimals.